Hello, I'm Mohsen Jamal and you watch Afghan News. Foreign forces fighting in Afghanistan have become more accurate in nighttime raids on homes, but they have stepped up the number and scope of the controversial operations, so they affect more Afghan civilians. A report said on Monday, Nirole troops have improved the way they chose targets for raids and say they get the right people now in 4 out of 5 missions, but have also widened the pool. The report by the Open Society Foundations and the liaison office said Open Society's Foundation officer Erica Gaston said that these night raids have affected an increasing number of Afghan residents. The report warned that wider targeting and large-scale detentions may both be in violation of international law, and added that Afghans with loose connections to insurgents appear to have become the objectives rather than active fighters or commanders within the insurgent groups. The NATO-led International Security Resistance Force said that it welcomed the report's findings and would study its recommendations to implement any that could improve operations, but defended them as an important military tool. The United States Secretary of State Hillary Clinton praised Pakistan in long hours of talks on Sunday to attack the Haqqani network militant group Washington blames for a recent attack on the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, a senior U.S. official said. The official, who spoke on condition of anonymity, said the issue of counterterrorism in general and the Haqqani network in particular were the first and last topics discussed by Clinton and Pakistani Foreign Minister Hina Rabbani Khair. The Haqqani network is one of the 3 and perhaps the most feared of the Taliban-allied insurgent factions fighting U.S.-led NATO and Afghan troops in Afghanistan. Insurgents in a bomb-laden truck occupied a building in Kabul on Tuesday, raining rockets and gunfire on the U.S. Embassy and other targets in the diplomatic quarter of the Afghan capital and battled police during a 20-hour siege. 5 Afghan police and 11 civilians were killed. A counter-terrorism official was killed in an ambush by insurgents in northern Afghanistan, an official said Monday. Gul Muhammad, the district counter-terrorism chief in the northern province of Kunduz, was shot while riding a motorcycle. Sophie Habib, the district police chief, said. Habib said police had arrested 4 suspects. Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid claimed responsibility for the killing of Muhammad and his bodyguard. He was the second counter-terrorism district chief to be killed by the Taliban this month. The German military has registered a dramatic surge in bombings targeting them in Afghanistan, while attacks with the small arms or rockets have dropped slightly, and regional German military commanders said Sunday. Said attacks increased by 150% this year, said Major General Markus Naib, the commander of German troops in Afghanistan, who was speaking during a visit to the country by German Defense Minister Thomas de Maizière. By comparison, other forms of attack had dipped by around 10 to 15%, he said. Naib judged the overall security situation for the Bundeswehr in Afghanistan to be significantly better than in 2010, with just 3% of security-related incidents had occurred in the north of the country. Earlier, the German Defense Minister Maizière arrived for the visit aimed at preparing his country's gradual troop pullout. With more than 5,000 troops deployed in the comparatively quiet north of the country, Germany is the 3rd contributor of troops in coalition operations behind the United States and Britain. A suicide bomber killed at least 8 people, including 6 policemen, by driving an explosives-laden car into the home of a senior police official in Pakistan's biggest city and commercial hub, Karachi, on Monday. Senior Superintendent of Police Chaudhary Muhammad Aslam, who survived the attack, told reporters that he has received threats from militant groups, including the Al-Qaeda-linked Pakistani Taliban. Police Chief Saud Mirza said a suicide bomber carried out the attack and that some members of the Aslam's family were trapped under rubble, and Aslam said several of his guards were killed. Karachi is Pakistan's most unstable city and is plagued by ethnic and political violence, which has reached its worst level in 15 years. Iranian state television is reporting that authorities have arrested 5 people for working for the BBC's Farsi language service. Monday's report on the channel's website says the group provided the British Broadcasting Corporation with video and negative news reports on Iran, but did not identify them by their full names. Iran has blocked the channel and accused it, alongside the British government, of fomenting the mass protests that broke out after Iran's disputed presidential election in 2009, while both denied the accusation. The BBC's Farsi service has no office in Tehran. Iran has detained many journalists and bloggers in recent years. Soldiers and rescue workers hiked through lashing rain to isolated Himalayan villages on Monday to search for survivors of a 6.9 magnitude earthquake that killed at least 53 people in India, Nepal and China. Rescuers pulled victims from rubble as the number of casualties climbed to 31 in the Shangri-La, northeastern Indian state of Sikkim. The epicenter of Sunday night's quake felt more than 600 miles away in New Delhi. Thick cloud prevented helicopters from flying over the affected areas, home to some of the world's highest peaks, and authorities said casualties could rise. Thousands of soldiers helping rescue efforts may not reach many areas until Tuesday because mountain passes are blocked. The quake hit at 16 local time and was felt in 5 countries including Bangladesh and Buddhist Kingdom Bhutan. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries has recognized the National Transitional Council as Libya's representative. Abdullah al-Badri, OPEC's Secretary General, told the Gulf Intelligence and Energy Forum in Dubai on Monday. The OPEC's recognition came after the United Nations approved a Libyan request to accredit envoys of the country's interim government as Tripoli's sole representatives at the world body on Friday. Since failing to convince other OPEC members at their last meeting in Vienna in June to raise output to make up for the loss of Libyan crude since February, Saudi Arabia and its Gulf OPEC allies have raised their oil production over the last few months. The recognition for the NTC came even as its fighters battled troops loyal to ousted leader Muammar Gaddafi a month after taking the capital Tripoli. Since taking the capital Tripoli last month, NTC fighters have made a stiff resistance in Bani Walid and Gaddafi's birthplace Sirte, which they must capture before they can declare Libya liberated. Clashes have resumed on the streets of the Yemeni capital Sana'a a day after at least 26 anti-government protesters were shot dead and hundreds wounded by troops and gunmen loyal to President Ali Abdullah Saleh. According to reports, at least 6 people were killed in fresh violence on Monday as the snipers fired upon passers-by and peaceful protesters demonstrating at Chance Square. The clashes came as protesters tried to push further into territory held by government forces after extending their camp overnight. The opposition had earlier vowed to press ahead with demonstrations despite Sunday's crackdown. Meanwhile, Abdul al-Janadi, Yemen's deputy information minister, rejected accusations that the regime had planned attacks on the protesters and accused what he described as unknown assailants of carrying out the acts. And the Syria's opposition movement has released a statement calling on the government of Bashar al-Assad to immediately end its acts of repression following talks outside Damascus. At least 200 Syrian opposition members met near the capital, urging protesters to keep their movement peaceful and not be tempted to take up arms against Assad's daily 6-month crackdown on demonstrations. The meeting was organized by the Executive Office of the National Coordinating Body, a group established to unite key opposition figures inside and outside Syria. Meanwhile, dozens of students demonstrated in the Damascus suburb of Kisweh on the first day of the school year in Syria on Sunday. The Syrian uprising began in mid-March amid the wave of protests in the Arab world that have toppled governments in Tunisia, Egypt and Libya. And that's all for now. Thanks for staying with us.